Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is Jay from Shopworks, and you are attending our webinar today on easier customer approvals. Thanks first of all for your time today. If you've never attended one of our webinars before, the way it works is that you can hear me, I cannot hear you. However, we do want you to ask questions. And the way that you're going to do that is there's a question pane, P-A-N-E, pane that was part of your GoToWebinar when you logged in. There's a question pane. And I would encourage you to type in questions throughout the webinar. I'm going to reserve time at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. Our webinar today should take only about 30 minutes with maybe 15 minutes for questions. It will be recorded and we will send out a recording link. So afterwards, if you want to review the material or share with another staff member, you'll have the opportunity to do that. So thanks again for your time. Let's get started. First thing today is we are giving away $100 worth of gift cards to 2 different people. That's a total of $50 per person. And to do that, to get in on that raffle, I'm going to have 3 polls for you today. Polls are just take a couple seconds for you to answer a quick question. And if you participate in that poll, it will get you an entry. The more polls you participate in, there's only 3, the more entries you get, and then we will raffle off the $50 gift cards, and those will be sent to the email address that you use to register for the webinar. So let's go ahead and do our first poll actually right now. And the first poll question, and you'll see it pop up on your screen, and go ahead and click in on your answer there. So how many orders on average do you process? 20 or under, 20 to 60, 60 to 100, 100 plus, or you're not sure. And remember, there is no right or wrong answer. We're just looking for your input, and I'll share with you here. We got about 2/3 of you voted. I'll close the poll here in a couple seconds. So we'll close it in 5 seconds. 4. And remember, this is getting you the entry into the gift card. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. 73% of you voted. Thank you very much. And we had 9%, about 10% of you do 20 to 60 orders on average. This is per month, by the way. 10% of you are doing 20 to 60. Another 10% are doing 60 to 100, and 77%, or 3/4 of you, doing 100 plus orders per month. 5% of you weren't sure. So thanks for answering. Let's continue. So again, our subject today is easier customer approvals. Now, what do we mean we talk about approvals? Well, let's talk about some of the use cases for your business. The first thing people think of when they want customers to approve things is artwork. So that's the scenario where you want your customer to approve art before you proceed with an order. Another thing people think about is maybe order pricing. So you got an order going for a customer and you want them to sign off on or approve the pricing or the details of that order. Another thing might be shipping instructions. Say you have a customer has complicated shipping instructions and you think you got it right, but you want to have them, confirm for you. You could do that through a proof or an approval. And a quote. Maybe you're not ready to do an order yet, but you just want to give a customer a quote. And before you proceed with that quote, you're going to have the customer sign off on, or your prospect sign off on it. So those are just some examples. Those are the most common use cases we hear of. But really, proofs or approvals can be almost anything that you want a customer to approve. And just so you know, I use those terms interchangeably. An approval, a proof. The product we're going to look at today is called ProofStuff. So I'm going to be referring to these approvals as proofs. But I kind of use those 2 words interchangeably, proof and approve. So those are the use cases for most businesses. And let's talk briefly about how most of you are currently doing proofs. So when we speak to people on the phone, when we run into people at trade shows, even existing customers who aren't using ProofStuff, all of you are already doing approvals and proofs, or most of you. And this is typically how you do it. Step 1 is you're going to create a PDF or some JPEG image or some sort of file a customer can see. Step 2 is you're going to email that file to the customer as an attachment. Sometimes they're big files, sometimes they're not. Step 3 is you're going to wait on the customer to approve it. Usually they'll email back to you. 4 is you have to manually manage the entire process. That means you have to store the approval somewhere. You have to follow up with the customer. There's just, if you only have 3 proofs, then it's not a big deal. But some of you are doing, most of you are doing 100 plus orders per month. So if you're doing 100 plus orders per month, you might have 200 or 300 approvals per month. So managing that manually, is cumbersome, but that's how you do it. You got to have somewhere to store the approval. You have to follow up with the customer if they're not acting, if they're not getting back to you in a timely manner, that sort of thing. So I'm going to call this the attachment method of doing proofs or approvals. Is you're basically sending an email with an attachment, and then you're waiting on the customer to respond to you. Now, what's the matter with this attachment method? What's the problem with it? Well, really, if you're doing a low volume of proofs or approvals, there isn't a lot of problems with it. It's actually pretty straightforward. However, like I said, most of you are doing 100 plus orders per month, and all of you are doing at least 20 orders per month. So let's look at the disadvantages. Number 1, emailing large files is problematic. It takes up your bandwidth. The customer sometimes doesn't get it. People don't like opening up large files. Sometimes some customers don't like you sending them large files. Managing the follow-up with customers slows you down. So if you're waiting on approvals, that's holding up your order processing process. That's holding up your workflow. And you're having to manage that. So you're having to remember to call customers, follow up with them. Hey, what's going on? Did you get my approval? Can we get that back? That sort of thing. Thirdly, is there's poor accountability. So if there's a dispute with an order, if the order gets disputed in any way between you and the customer, then that costs you dollars, because you're going to have to give the customer a concession, either a discount, free product, reprint it for free, whatever the situation is. And some of the things you'll hear from customers might be, oh, I didn't get that. Oh, I didn't see that, or I didn't mean that. So when you're doing things verbally and just by sending, emails with some text in it, it's very easy for there to be confusion between you and the customer, and we want to reduce that confusion. And lastly, as your approval volume increases, it becomes unmanageable. This whole process of doing the attachment method of emailing files around, you have multiple artists, for example, sending files around. And what if artist A is out sick? And then the customer calls artist A and they're out sick. And so they just leave a message, but it's a timely order. And then somebody has to retrieve that message. And it's just a very manual process that is fraught with problems and slows your whole company down. And that's why we created ProofStuff. That's why we created the product in the first place. So my second poll I'm going to launch right now. And the question is, how do you currently handle customer approvals? I'm going to launch it. Again, this is getting you an entry into the gift card giveaway. I'm going to give everybody, a couple seconds here to answer the questions. Pretty straightforward. How do you currently handle customer approvals? You email them. Sometimes you fax them. You use some sort of software like what ProofStuff is. Other or none, you don't do customer approvals. So if you could just chime in on that one. And I'll close the poll here in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let me just share the results with you. So this is pretty typical. Actually, this is higher than most of the webinars we run. 96% of you are doing this attachment method that I've shown you. 96%. Only 4% of you are using some sort of software program to manage these proofs. So most of you are in this scenario that I've just kind of described with the attachment method. So what can we do about it? How can we improve on this attachment method? And now we're going to get into the demo portion of the webinar, and I'm going to show you the ProofStuff product. And we're going to take it through some kind of real world cases of how we are going to do customer proofs. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to go to ProofStuff.com, and there's 2 ways that ProofStuff can be used. So there's 2 ways that ProofStuff can be used. And I'm going to show you both these ways in the webinar. Number one is if you don't use our on-site product, on-site is our entire shop management software. If you don't use on-site, you can still use ProofStuff. So if you're using QuickBooks, if you're using another industry-specific package for running your business, you can use ProofStuff in conjunction with that software. So it is a standalone web-based software. Anybody can use it. However, if you're using on-site, ProofStuff is really nicely integrated with our on-site product as well. And I'm going to show you both of those options, and you can use them both simultaneously. So you're not having to make a choice. This is not a setting or it's any sort of choice you have to make. It's just you get both pieces of functionality when you're using ProofStuff, and if you're an on-site customer, there's an added benefit. So let's get back to our ProofStuff here. So I'm going to go over to ProofStuff.com, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in as an administrator. And as an administrator, I want to show you the settings that you can do in the system. So when a customer, basically how ProofStuff works is you're still going to send your customer an email. However, you're not going to send them an attachment. You're going to send them a link, and they're going to click on the link and they're going to see a proof. And we'll go through all of that. But what I want to show you here is how you can, as an administrator, you set up your ProofStuff website. So if I go to settings, you can see down here, this is where we set up the look and feel of what our customer is going to see. So my company is called Source Logo, and we wanted to say art and approval system. We have some options here, and I'm not going to go through. This is just I'm just doing a webinar here. I'm not going to go through all these different settings, but there's different settings in here which essentially allow you to brand your site. And if I click on this little preview button, I can see what the branding looks like. So this is a pretend proof. It's not a real proof. But this is kind of what my customer would see. So my customer would see our company name. They would see some contact information. We have instructions that appear in different places. They would have their images or whatever they're approving. And approvals don't have to be just images. They can be all different kinds of files. But in this case, we're just showing an image here. So that's kind of what the branding is going to look like. But the point is, you can completely customize this for your look and feel. The other customization we have is text. So you noticed when you preview an approval, there's this proof instructions. See the proof instructions right here? That's where you're going to put in there some kind of stock messaging that you're going to present to your customer. Hey, thanks for using our company. Please look at the approval below. We need you to reply in a timely manner, et cetera, et cetera. You can make it say whatever you would like. And that's also a setting within ProofStuff. There's three different kinds because there's three different kinds of approvals. We'll get into that a little bit later. But if I go in here, you can see you have the proof instructions. You have different text when they accept a proof. You have a confirmation text. If they decline a proof or an approval, there's some text that'll appear. So there's a bunch of different text that you're going to set up in the system. And these are going to be ways to present information to your customer as part of the approvals. The third setting thing I wanted to show you is emails. So, and the important ones are going to be follow-up emails and decision emails. So let's look at follow-up emails. And this is one of the nice things about ProofStuff is that in your current scenario where you're attaching files and emailing to the customer, you're responsible for following up with that customer. ProofStuff takes some of that burden off of you. And the way that it does it is ProofStuff will send 3 follow-up emails, up to 3, only on proofs that have not been acted on. And you can decide the messaging in each of the follow-up emails, and you can decide when they're sent and what they say. So you can see here the way that we currently have it set up is 1 hour after the proof is created, we send a response required. 2 hours after the proof is created, we send a second request, and it's a little bit stronger messaging. And then 3 hours after the proof is created, we send a final request with even more, dire messaging saying, hey, we need to really get your proof. Now, 1, 2, and 3 hours is not really recommended best practices. You're probably really going to want to space that out more. It could be a day, it can be half a day, it's measured in hours. So you can change those settings and you can send these whenever you want. However, so the important thing to take away from this is that ProofStuff is going to automatically follow up with your customers via email up to 3 times with increased messaging that you decide on. And that takes a lot of the burden off of you and your staff in doing the follow-up. Now, it's not going to eliminate it. You're still going to have customers who are not going to respond to those emails. And of course, you're going to have to call them and all the normal pain stuff that you normally do. But it's going to highly, highly reduce it. I would estimate by 75% at least. Most people will respond to the emails. The next setting things is we have users. So the concept here is you can have multiple users using the ProofStuff system. So if you have, let's say, 10 staff members, and they're all sending out proofs, you have the ability to set up different users in the system. You can see here I have 6 different users that are using ProofStuff. You have different access rights. So for example, you can have a salesperson where they can only see their approvals. However, you can have a sales manager or art manager who can see all the approvals. So you kind of have some tiered access controls that are in there related to each of the users. Okay, so that's kind of our administrative settings done by an administrator. I'm going to log out. And now I'm going to log in as a user of ProofStuff. So I'm logging in. It's not the same person. I'm Jay doing the webinar, so I have them both set up under me, but imagine that these are 2 actually different people. And so what Jay sees, remember, Jay's not an administrator. He sees proofs, so he can see his open proofs. And notice these are only Jay's proofs in the system. He's not seeing other people's proofs. And the reason why is because that's Jay's access rights. If Jay wants to see a proof, all he has to do is click on it. So let's click on this one. And we can see this is what the customer, now we're seeing exactly what the customer would see. So we can see our logo. The customer can see there's a message here, dear customer, please review the blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. And then the customer can act on the approval. Now, there's different kinds of approvals. This one is called a single approval, which the customer is presented with multiple options, and they're having to choose only one of those options. There's other kinds of approvals. We'll go through those in a little while. So in this particular scenario, we're asking the customer to approve, choose from 3 different layouts that we've created. Maybe it's not final artwork, it's spec artwork, etc. And they would simply click on the option. Then they would click on approve, and they're going to type in their name. Now remember, I'm acting now as if I were the customer. Your salesperson is not going to do that. And we also have an option, you can turn this on or off, where the person can actually sign their name on screen with the mouse or touch screen. And the customer is then going to approve that quote. And then, of course, this messaging is customizable as well. Your approval has been confirmed, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to close that. Now, if the customer ever goes back to the proof, they'll have that. The link is still good, but now they cannot act on the proof. Once the proof has been acted on, it cannot be acted on again. The customer can print it out. They can always go back to that link, and they can always see what they approved or declined. And notice that behind the scenes, it records date and time. It also records some other information like computer MAC address. There's some behind the scene things that you can turn on or off, and it captures their signature. So you will obviously have all this information historically for all of your customers, and your customers will have that information as well. And that really helps out in the case of if you ever get into a scenario where you're disputing things with customers, or you get into a customer dispute. Now you have more common ground where you guys can actually have something where you can say, oh yeah, we agreed upon that. Now, from the same website, I could also create a proof. So let's say I wanted to go ahead and do a new proof. I'm going to select my customer. In this case, we're going to use DC Special Olympics. And let's go ahead to step 2, and this is we're going to create the proof. Now I have the option of typing in an order ID, a quote ID, a design ID, or some other ID. Now where you might use that is if you're using QuickBooks and you have some sort of reference number in QuickBooks, you could type that in here just to tie it to a transaction. If you're using our on-site system, and we'll show you proofs from the on-site system as well, but if I wanted to, here's a proof for order we're going to work on, and if I wanted to add a proof to this order, I can do it from on-site. I'll show you that here in a minute, but let me show you how to do that from ProofStuff. So it's 5990, 590, and the proof name is going to be initial design. And again, I'm going to stick with the single approval. So I'll show you the absolute multi-approval here in a minute, but let me just show you the single approval. I'm going to ask the customer to choose, and I'm going to add the items I want them to approve. And I'm just going to do the same design I just showed you. I've created 3 different options for this customer. So option 1, I'm just going to call it option 1. I'm going to add another proof item, and I'm going to do this one. I've already created these JPEG files, obviously, beforehand. They don't have to be JPEG. There's lots of different file formats, so don't worry about that. And I'm going to give them the third option. So I'm going to create those different options. Now, next thing I want to do is send the email. And I'm going to select from email templates. So I've created a stock letter, stock email, so I don't have to type it in every time. And notice it's going to dynamically populate the information. Dear customer name, see enclosed, proof, there's the URL, it has my contact information in there. Just a quicker way to do it. And now I'm going to send the email. Before I do that, notice there's a setting down here. I can send that from no reply at proofstuff.com, or I can send it from my local email client, which means it'll just go right directly through whatever email package you're currently using. So I would go ahead and send the email. I'm going to skip that step for the purposes of this demonstration, but I would send the email, it would send it to the customer, and the customer would receive the proof. It's as simple as that. That's how easy creating proofs is. So I'm going to go back here. But I want you to notice something. Because we tied it to a transaction and on-site, if I just move around here, notice that approval is now in the system. So if you're a user of on-site, it doesn't matter if you create the proof from your phone, from a tablet, when you're at home. If you tie it to the proper transactional ID in the system, it will show in the on-site system. So that's kind of how you create the proofs from the ProofStuff website. So let's back out a step here. On-site is our whole business management system designed specifically for this industry. I'm going to bring up all the DC Special Olympics orders that I'm working on right now. And the one that we're going to do today is Torch Run 22. So let's look at this order real quick. It's an order they want at the end of this month. I have my contact information. We have the design information, but all we really have is a placeholder. We just have Torch Run 2022. And the reason why is because this is a order where they know that they want to design, but we haven't designed anything yet. It's spec art. We're going to do a couple different designs and present them to them. So I'm just leaving this as empty for right now. And I want to present the customer with those 3 different options. If I go to line items, this is showing the different items they're going to be getting for this particular order. They're happen to be buying some t-shirts. It could be mugs, trophies, anything that you sell in our industry, digital signage. The system will handle all of that. You have shipping instructions. We can drop ship to multiple locations, etc. I don't want to get into all this stuff for on-site. But if I go to ProofStuff, this is where I can see the different proofs. And I can see here we have one outstanding proof. I can see here it's open. I can see who it was sent to. And I can also retire it. Like, let's say, for example, I created the proof, but I made a mistake. I can retire the proof before I send it to my customer. So you can retire proofs. If I want to see what the proof looks like, I just click on this little world icon, and I can see exactly what my customer sees, which is what we saw when we created the proof, is that it's waiting out there. It's waiting for the customer to make a decision. Now let's go ahead and do what the customer did last time too. Let's select, let's approve it. Again, we're just going to go through this step again. I'll do it fast. Steve's going to approve it. And we can see the approval is now changed, and it records what happened. And if I go back to my on-site system, now you do have to refresh the information. You can't, you have to move around or just click on this refresh button. And notice that I now see that that's been approved. That proof has been approved. Okay, so they've approved the proof, but that was just a concept. So now my art department goes back and they do, let's say they do some more artwork, but now it's the real detailed artwork. So I'm going to go ahead and create another proof, but I'm going to do that from my on-site system. So I showed you how we did it from the website. Now we're going to do it from on-site. I'm going to click on Add Proof. And now this is going to be final artwork. Is going to be the proof name. This is what the customer is going to see. And I'm going to present them with two different things I want them to approve. And again, it could be a PDF file, it could be a JPEG image, it could be lots of different things. I'm just going to add a file. And let's go to I have everything stored in my DC Special Olympics. And I'm going to do the front. Okay, so now it's the final artwork. And I'm going to add another file, and I'm going to do the back. Okay, so I have two different images. Now, again, each one of these doesn't have to be only be an image. I could add a form. I could have a PDF document. I could add all different kinds of things. But in this case, I don't want it to be a single approval because I'm not asking them to make a choice between the two. I want it to be an absolute approval, meaning they're either approving everything I'm showing them, or they're approving nothing, or they're declining everything I'm showing them. Okay, that's the way. So single is a choice. Absolute is they have to approve or decline everything. So let's go ahead and release that. Now in on-site, you also have the ability to do a stock letter. And sorry, this process is a little slower when you're doing a webinar. And so this is where I would actually go ahead and do my stock letter. So I could do that. I could pick from my stock letters, and I have all these stock letters stored in on-site. Again, I'm going to skip that step. It's very straightforward. You just pick the stock letter. Here, I'll just show you real quick. It dynamically fills in the information, and you would send it to the customer. So again, works almost the exact same as when you're working on the website, just looks a little different. Okay, now I'm going to refresh my screen. And now I can see there's a second approval in there. So on-site, one of the nice things about on-site is that it attaches, all of the proofs you're creating are attached to the order. So when you're looking at that order down the road and there's any sort of problem with the order or there's any question over what was done, you have a complete history. Here's the initial design. Here's revision 1, revision 2, revision 3. All of your different revisions would show up here in the on the screen. Now, if I want to view what that looks like, again, I'm going to click on the little world button. And our proof instructions have changed a little bit. You can change those. It's by proof type. And notice there's no selector button by each of these items. They're either approving or declining something. Now, let's look at what a decline looks like. Let's say the customer doesn't like something. They can click on decline, and we have different messaging here, and they can add notes. On the front of the shirt, please change year to 2022. And again, we're going to record who's doing this. Steve is our contact over there we're dealing with. And he's going to sign it. And now he's going to decline it. And by the way, just so you know, whenever a customer acts on a proof, you're getting an email notification. So you are knowing when customer acts on a proof. You're getting an email, the customer gets an email, and you get an email. So I'm going to go ahead and decline this. I'm going to close it. And if we go back to our on-site system, let's refresh the screen and notice that the first one was approved, the second one was declined. And why was it declined? Well, because on the front of the shirt, please change the year to 2022. Okay, no problem. So let's look at another scenario. Now let's say you said, okay, let's send them one more approval. We fixed the artwork, but I also want them to sign off on the order. So I'm going to go over to my forms here in Onsite, and I'm going to bring up the invoice, and I'm going to go back to ProofStuff, and I'm going to create another proof. And in this case, I'm going to give him, and this is going to be final proof. And the final proof is going to have 3 items on it. The first item is going to be, we're going to do that design again. Now, I just asked you to use a little bit of imagination, pretend that I fixed that to 2022 per the request. The back was fine, but I still want him to sign off on it. And the third thing I'm going to do is I want to include the invoice. I want him to make sure that we agreed upon a price. I want him to agree on the invoice. I could also put a fourth one, and I could put shipping instructions. So that's pretty cool. I can send one approval to my customer that's saying, here's the design, here's the pricing, here's the shipping instructions. Please sign off on everything. So you have that option. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and say add a form. I just selected the invoice, so I'm going to insert it. So now we're sending him 2 images and a PDF form. And by the way, if you ever need to, you can zoom in on these by clicking on them. If you're not sure what you sent, you can just zoom in on it to preview it. Okay. But I don't want to make this single or absolute. I'm going to make this multiple. And what that means is the customer is not making a choice, which is single. They're not approving or declining everything, which is absolute. They're going to be approving or declining each separate thing. So I have 3 things I'm presenting, 2 images and an invoice. They're going to have the opportunity to approve or decline all 3 of them. So let's go ahead and release that. And again, sorry about the speed there. It's definitely much faster when you're not recording. We would send the email, which I'm not going to do, but they would get the email. Let's see what the customer would get. So now what they're getting is, again, notice the proof instructions have changed. So different messaging you can give to them. And notice that they can either approve or decline each item. So in this case, let's say they approve the artwork. That looks good. That looks good. They zoom in on the pricing. Oh, I don't like that. Yes, pricing is not correct. Please see email Jim sent to me. Okay, submit. And now I'm going to submit the entire thing. And again, Steve Hocker. And he's going to sign it. And again, the proof has been acted on, so it can't be changed. And if we go back to our on-site system, I'm going to refresh the screen. You can see that it was partially approved. So we have 1 approved, 1 declined, and then 1 partially approved. And then, of course, I would fix the pricing. I would send them a final one, and then that one would get approved. I'm going to skip over that one to show you, but imagine there'd be a 4th one in here, final proof Rev B, that I would send to them with the proper pricing in it, and then that will be approved. So you have an entire process there on every order. You have a history of each approval you sent to your customer along with how they reacted to it. So this is tied into Onsite in orders, quotes, and also designs. Another thing that we have related to proofs in Onsite that really helps you manage approvals is we have what's called an approval tool or ProofStuff tool. So if I click on that ProofStuff tool, notice it's showing me all my open proofs. I have 45 open proofs right now. This is a really nice tool built into Onsite because it allows me to manage proofs. If they're taking too long, obviously some of these are from June. This is not a real life system. Let's look at 11.1. Let's look at since, oh, no, we don't have any. So I can apply these filters and it'll show me, and then I can view them. I can see kind of like some of the details, who the person is, have the follow-up emails been sent. I can see that. I can view the proof. I just click on the proof button and it brings me to the proof itself. So this is still an outstanding proof we're waiting on. So you can use this tool to contact customers that they need to have, they need to be contacted to follow up on it. And the way that you do that is just by clicking on this button, and you can see the email information to contact them. So that ProofStuff tool is built right into OnSite, and again, that just helps you follow up with your customers. Okay, so let's look at, just to summarize kind of what some of the benefits are to ProofStuff. Is number one, it's a simple email to your customers. There's not any attachments, so a lot better chance of customer reacting, and also it not getting kicked back to you because its file's too large or it's getting thrown into spam, etc. ProofStuff, the proof itself is a consistent and professional presentation. Once you have it branded and messaged properly, whenever your employees, all your employees are going to be sending the same things to your customers, which is, again, consistent and professional. Customers like that. Thirdly, you have automatic and escalating customer reminders to act. If your customer is not acting on proofs, they're going to get email reminders. Hey, we need you to act on this proof. Notification when the customer approves or declines. Once the customer does act, you and your art staff or whoever's sending the proof is getting notification that the proof has been acted on. So now you can start moving on with your next steps. And you have increased customer accountability. And it's really just accountability for everybody, not just your customers, for your company as well. And that includes signatures, dates and timestamps, computer IDs. You have good accountability on order of what everybody agreed upon, both you and your customer. So I'm going to open the floor for questions. I see a couple questions have come in. If you have a question, now is the time to ask. So let's see. Sean asks, asking about when will ProofStuff site become a secure site? Oh, it's been a non-secure site, SSL certificate. Yeah, Sean, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. So what Sean is asking is, see how it says not secure? I'm in Google Chrome, and it's just an HTTP site. It's not an HTTPS site for secure. But I'll get with our staff and find out what's going on with that. Sean asks, will you be updating the data input for emails that allow us to add more than one email when adding a client to send them a proof? Let's see what options we have there. So if I go to send a proof, I want to resend this one, say. Well, in OnSite, you have the option to have copy to and blind copy to, so you can send it to multiple people. And I believe you have that same capability from the website too. So you can definitely send to more than one email to send people proofs. Joe asks, will the customer receive a link? Will the customer receive a link to this that we send via email? How will they navigate to the web page? Well, they'll just click on the link. So the web, when you generate the email, and I know I did kind of skip that step, but when you go to email a proof, and I go ahead and pick, and let's just say design approval. See, when I did that, there's a link in there, initial design link in this case. That link is what they'll click on. When you send it via email, it'll be a clickable link, and they can click on that or copy and paste it, and that will take them to the web browser. Colleen has, how do you add store customers? Well, if you're in OnSite, the customers are already part of OnSite. OnSite has a whole customer management system, and that's part of it. Orders already have customers associated with it. So if you're doing the proof from OnSite, it's already built in. If you're adding a proof from the website, let's go proofs. Let's say we'll add a new proof, and I can just add new customers. So I can add a customer on the fly. I can select a customer, and those customers can be my customers. Those are just people I've added on the fly. Or it can be company customers. And what that means is you can actually import your customer list. If, let's say, again, if you're using, excuse me, that's not going to sound great on the webinar recording. I apologize. you can import customer lists from QuickBooks or other software packages into ProofStuff. That's kind of part of the settings that you can do. So when your employees are using the system, they can set up new customers, or they can use the imported list of customers, which is what we call company customers. So that's how the customer management is done. Colleen asks, can the PDF be multiple pages or one only? Yes, the PDF can be multiple pages. So I think there's a 2 megabyte limit. There's a limit on the file size. We've increased it over the years, so I think it's 2 megabytes. I'm not 100% sure. But there's no limit to the number of pages. Your customer would open up, they would open up the PDF. So if they're looking at this final proof and we have a PDF here, this is only a 1-pager, but you could have 10 pages. And they can download it, they can zoom in, they can do all kinds of things with that PDF. Adam asks, is the customer required to log in? No, that's kind of one of the great things about ProofStuff is there is no customer login required. They just click on a link and act on it from there. Login is not required. Colleen asked, do we receive an email when it's approved? I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but I think I said yes. So you don't have to keep checking ProofStuff. You will get an approval when the customer acts on it. Colleen also asked, can you add a form or notes for the customers to fill out a roster with names, numbers, sizes? No, ProofStuff is not really designed to get information from customers other than, notes when they approve or decline, that sort of thing. It's not really designed as an order taking mechanism or that sort of thing. I get what you're saying there. They might have a design they want to approve, and then you need them to submit a list of names because the names are going to go on the back, that sort of thing. ProofStuff is not going to handle that for you, but it would not be hard, it's not part of ProofStuff, I guess. Nancy asks, how do you include specific information about size of imprint, PMS colors, etc.? Well, there's 2 ways you can do that. A lot of people will have more complex JPEGs or PDF files that specify all that right on the image. So that's one way you could do it. Another way you can do it is the designs in Onsite actually specify actual colors. So you can see here, we have a PMS color, and the color is going to be, I'm just going to make up something, PMS 143. And you can have other custom information you put in here. You're not going to have many of these colors. We're kind of getting in the Onsite thing. And then I could present this as a form. I could have them sign off on that. I could say this is a full front. It's going to be 6 colors. So this information can be printed as a form, and that could be part of your approval process. So it's very flexible. You are going to have to kind of play with it to see what's going to work best for your company, but that's the 2 ways that people do it. Sharon asks, are clients able to forward the email link to other people in their organization? They are. That's a feature that you can turn, I keep doing that you can turn on or off. But there is the ability to, there's a forward button that you can turn on or off. It looks like it's off in here right now. You can also see a customer can look at multiple proofs. So if they're on one approval, and Steve can see I use him a lot for my samples, but you can see he's got tons of approvals in here that are waiting for him. So he can see all of those, then he can click on them and it can bring up the next one. So that one's not available, but that's kind of the idea there for the viewing all the proofs. Okay, Sean is giving me a follow-up question on the emails. I know we can add, we want to add more than one email when adding the customer in the system. Oh, I see what you're saying. So I think what Sean is saying is when he adds a customer to the system, my customers, and if I add a customer, he wants to add more than one email address. I'll have to find out about that. You might be able to comma separate in there. That one I'm not sure about. That one I would have to find out about. I'll take some notes and we'll find out about that. Joe asked, can a customer attach references decline. Can a customer? Well, remember, you're going to be sending a customer an email. So if they decline the proof and then want to respond to the email, that would be one way for revision requests. Another way would be when they decline the proof, they type in what they want. So that's kind of the two ways to do it. The question, I think, is if a customer declines it, how do you manage like the revisions? So that's the two ways to do it. They can respond to the original email that had the link in it, or they can, when they actually decline the proof, they'll type in their response there, or they can do both. Colleen asks, to connect the proof to the on-site order, do we type in the sales order number or the PO number? No, you type in the sales order number. So the question is, if I have a proof, I'm not creating the proof from on-site, I'm creating it from a web browser. How do I connect it to this order? The way that you connect it to the order is via order number 599, in this case 5990. So that's how you connect it. Joe asks, can the approve decline buttons be moved? No. Joe's saying it makes more sense to have it visually, to have it at the bottom rather than the top. Yeah, that's a good point. We're looking at different ways to do that, but there is no current setting for that. It's just kind of hardwired in the system. Adam asked, can the customer have any way to log in and see all their open proofs? No, there is no login to ProofStuff. There's no login for customers. There's only login for login for users of ProofStuff, your people. The way that a customer is going to see the multiples is by clicking on that button that I showed you. So if they're in a proof and they click on view all my proofs, they would see all their different proofs that are in the system. So that's the way they're going to see all their proofs. Okay. Colleen asked, what if you have a lot of chefs in the kitchen? Multiple people want to leave comments on proofs. Yeah, so like there's a lot of different kinds of proofing software out there, right? You have DocuSign, which is one a lot of people are familiar with. That's what lawyers, and when you close on a house, DocuSign. I mean, there's probably literally dozens, if not hundreds of them. So the concept of ProofStuff was to make it very integrated with OnSite, to make it simple, and not to make it not too complex. And I realized that by doing that, you give up some power. And one of the powers that we give up is ProofStuff is not really designed to, go through a series of people and then that's when it's approved. So it goes to person A, they make their decision. It goes to person B, they make their decision. It goes to person C, they make their decision. And then all that information is returned to you. It's not designed for that. So the way that you'd handle that using ProofStuff is that you would tell your main person who you're dealing with, your customer, is like, I'm sending you an approval. So if you have multiple inputs from multiple people, that person, your main person, kind of needs to, like, if there's 5 different reasons why something's declined by 5 different people, the main person has to take all those comments and put it in the decline button. Or you could have a conversation with them, or do a Zoom meeting, or they could put that in a document to you. But ProofStuff is not really going to handle these complex scenarios, multiple people, multiple approvals, multiple comments. It's really just simply not designed for that. I'm just being honest about that. It's designed to be simple and straightforward. It works great at what it does, but in those complex situations like that, it's probably not gonna cut the mustard for you. I think there's other ways around it. That doesn't mean that ProofStuff's horrible. I think it can still work for you. But if all of your orders are that way, then yeah, it might not be the right product for you. Okay, thanks for all your questions. You guys have been a great attendees. I have one more poll, and again, this poll gives you the ability to possibly win a $50 gift card. And the question is, would you like a 30-minute demo of ProofStuff? So if you're an existing ProofStuff customer, you can just say no. But if you're somebody who hasn't used ProofStuff before, is maybe interested in it, or wants to see on-site in conjunction with ProofStuff, or you're just interested in ProofStuff, it doesn't matter. Just say yes or no. We're not a hard sell company. Even if you say no, it's fine. We're not offended, and it will still get you an entry into the gift card giveaway. So no is fine. If you'd like us to contact you, we'll do it in a respectful manner. Like I said, we're not a hard sell company. So if you change your mind, oh, we don't, I thought I did, but now I don't want a demo. No problem. We're not going to keep hounding you. So I'm going to close this poll in a couple seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that's it for our webinar. Again, thank you everybody for your time today. If you're an existing ShopWorks customer, thank you so much for being a customer. If you're not a ShopWorks customer, we'd love to show you how we can help you run your business better. This webinar will be recorded. We'll send out a link. We'll also, the 2 people who get the gift cards, we will email you that you won. And other than that, everybody have a great rest of your day, great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you at the next webinar. Thank you.